Climbers are exceptional plants for many reasons. They can be low-growing, at below 10 centimeters or very high, up to a dozen meters, or even several dozen meters. In every small or large garden, in urban areas and public greenery, they can find a place and enrich it with a mass of foliage, improving the ambience, with flowers and fruit that are sometimes very decorative and edible for people and birds. Climbers create great combinations with perennials, shrubs and vines, adding color and dynamism to your garden. Without supports, climbers trail over the ground. If they find natural supports, as they would in their natural habitat, trees, stones, rocks, they climb up. We can use such supports in our garden. We can also provide artificial supports. A question often arises: what supports to use? Which are the best? It depends on the strength of growth, on the desired effect, but most of all on the way the vines climb up. They climb by means of tendrils, or tendrils with adhesive pads, which enables them to climb independently, or hold on with leaf petioles. They twine their shoots around supports, or use aerial roots. Finally, non-clinging vines climb by leaning on neighboring plants or other supports. Let's see what it looks like in different cases. Natural organs produced specifically for climbing are tendrils. All grapevines, as well as Ampelopsis and quinquefolia, Virginia creepers, and a number of other garden climbers. We're standing next to a crimson glory vine, Vitis coingnetiae, which has large leaves, even over 30 centimeters in diameter. It turns a beautiful color in autumn and can reach about a dozen meters. An annual growth of a well-rooted plant is about 2, 5 or sometimes even 7 meters. It produces very strong long tendrils. This one is just at the beginning. It can hold on to different kinds of supports and climb to impressive heights. It's a beautiful feature in a large garden, suitable also for public greenery. In small gardens, hard pruning is required. Also, other grapevines, including Vitis vinifera, a common grapevine, and all wine-producing varieties and table grapes. Vitis zilga, as well as other ornamental but yielding, ready-to-eat fruit, such as highly frost-hardy Vitis riparia, are great climbers to grow over noise barriers or fences. They're undemanding, suitable also for container cultivation on balconies and terraces. They all climb by means of tendrils. The supports shouldn't be too thick. Their single elements should be below or just around 3 centimeters in diameter. A great grapevine for public greenery, and as a matter of fact in all types of garden, is Vitis zilga, a hybrid of a fragrant grapevine and a fruit-yielding cultivar. This combination results in a strong growth and high hardiness, withstanding frost up to 35 degrees centigrade, below zero. It will grow over arbors, fences. It's disease-resistant and yields tasty sweet fruit that ripen in September. The most popular plants that climb using tendrils are Virginia creepers cultivars. The Thicket Creeper develops tendrils without adhesive pads, and it climbs up by holding on to small elements. It won't climb up a wall or any smooth surface. Wherever you want a plant to keep to one place, for example to grow over a wall and then hang from it, the Thicket Creeper should be your choice. It's also great for growing over various kinds of nets and fences. The Virginia Creeper, Parthenocissus quinquefolia, as well as Parthenocissus tricuspidata, and their cultivars develop adhesive pads at the end of their tendrils. This means they can climb over various supports, such as fences, nets, and bars, but also they can use the pads to climb over a flat, smooth surface. They can climb up concrete pylons and walls. They will cover them completely. These are very useful plants in urban areas where the space for greenery is limited. There's often little chance of planting a tree or a fair amount of shrubs. Virginia creepers, however, cover walls forming a massive green that filters the air, produces oxygen, and binds carbon dioxide. It hosts birds and livens up the surroundings. Also in private gardens, they're suitable for creating smaller or large barriers, walls and live fences and screens. Creepers, apart from an interesting leaf shape, boast a beautiful scarlet color in autumn. The Troki cultivar, also known as REDWALL, has the nicest coloring. If you want the plant to climb up a wall, though, the best choice will be the Virginia Creeper, Engelmanni, or Murorum varieties. They produce adhesive pads and hold on even to flat walls. Boston ivy and its varieties Vitis, green spring and others that are also applicable. It's worth remembering, though, that Boston ivy is more sensitive to frosts. If you'd rather avoid a monotone expanse of the Virginia Creeper, you could plant a Clematis every now and then. For example, Clematis PRAECOX that grows up to 2 to 3 meters. It's undemanding and it'll intermingle nicely with ivy. It blooms in summer with smallish beige flowers. In autumn, when the other plant turns red, Clematis will still have green leaves, which makes for a lively combination. You could also plant Clematis from the Viticella group or from the late large flowered group such as Polish Spirit, Etioli Violet or Krakowiak, or some cultivars from the Quinquefolia group. An impressive look may be achieved thanks to Clematis from the Texensis group, intermingling, uplifting the uniform green surface of the creepers. Besides artificial supports, the creepers can climb up the natural ones, such as trees. They can turn the trunk of a tall pine tree green. Obviously, their growth needs to be under control if we don't want them to stifle the host. But they can give this beautiful impression of green pylons. The slower growing cultivars, for example, star showers, can be planted in small gardens, where they brighten trunks of the trees growing in shaded spots. There are many possibilities. Another way of climbing is holding onto supports with leaf petioles. It's typical of most Clematis cultivars. These petioles have the same role to play as tendrils in the plants I mentioned before. Petioles aren't very long, so the support elements shouldn't be thicker than 1 centimeter in diameter. Only then the plant gets a good hold on them and can climb up easily. This is about 8 to 10 millimeters thick. When the supports are thicker than recommended, it's better to stretch wires or a mesh between them. Clematis can be trained along slats of a gate, or along a wooden fence, or over a net. They'll form colourful live covers. A similar method can be adopted when we want to adorn old tree trunks. Here we have a wire tied in a loose loop, so that it won't cut into the growing pine tree. Clematis climbs up with a little help. Every now and then we tie the shoots. This is Clematis Polish Spirit, a healthy, robust cultivar in common usage. This is the way many other clematis from the Viticella or atrigene groups may be trained. In spring, at the end of April and in May, they'll be the pride of such places. Some climbers will climb by twining their shoots around supports. In these cases, the support's thickness is important too. Depending on the species, the thickest elements shouldn't exceed 5 to 10 centimeters, up to 15 centimeters in the case of the staff vine, bittersweet. They'll serve their purpose better when they're rounded, not angular. If the supports are thicker, smaller elements should be provided. Wires, rods, and anything that'll allow the plant to hold on, like we would with our hands, and climb upwards. I'm standing next to the Acabea quinata cultivar, Alba. It's an evergreen plant with flowers born at the end of April and attractive fruit in autumn. This cultivar is particularly suitable for growing along different types of fences or nets, as it doesn't grow very strongly and it thickens up nicely. Other cultivars of Acabea, such as silver bells or variegata, may also be applied. What other vines climb by twining their shoots around supports? Well, for example, Actinidias, both kolomikta and arguta, hardy kiwi and all their cultivars, as well as wisterias. A similar way of climbing is typical of silk vine, Periploca, moonseed, Menispernum, and honeysuckle, Lonicera, such as Lonicera japonica and its cultivars, for example, Halliana. They all twine their shoots around supports and thus climb up. Aristolochia is similar in this respect. It has large leaves up to or over 30 centimeters and reaches about a dozen meters. It will climb along ropes, chains and other supports as long as they're not too thick. It's important to remember that Aristolochia doesn't like sun-exposed sites and requires fertile, moderately moist soil. Also Schisandra, magnolia vine, both Chinensis and rubriflora, as well as Celastrus, staff vine, both orbiculastus and scandens climb by twining. Most twining climbers require tall supports. They're suitable for growing over gates, arbors, but also, as mentioned before, they're great for covering fences. Some vines climb by aerial roots produced along their shoots. These roots attach themselves to supports. The most popular vine climbing with help of aerial roots is common ivy, Hedera helix. This is the Thorndale cultivar. But for wall climbing, Werner and Białystok cultivars are particularly recommended. Ivies, however, similarly to other plants climbing by aerial roots, won't cling to smooth surfaces. They'll manage a rough plaster, but they'll come off a polished layer. This is why it's a good idea to apply supports every 2 to 4 meters when you train such vines along a smooth surface. We can see there's a bamboo stick or rod attached that'll give the plant some stability. It'll prevent it from coming off even during a strong wind or heavy rain. Ivy is a shade-loving plant. It'll thrive in a shade or partial shade. If you plant it along a fence with an intention of forming an evergreen screen or along a wall, you'll need to remember to choose a northern aspect or possibly northeastern or northwestern, where sun exposure is limited. Alternatively, choose a shaded site. After a couple of years' growth, when the upper shoots reach the sunlit area, the ivy passes from the juvenile phase of supple shoots, producing aerial roots, into the adult phase. We can see it here. The leaves have a different, cordate shape and stiff protruding shoots. They have virtually no aerial roots, so they come off the wall, forming a kind of bulge. If you want to keep the surface flat, you just need to cut back these parts. This is not the only vine climbing this way. Also, the climbing hydrangea, Hydrangea petiolaris, cling by means of aerial roots. They too need additional supports every now and then if they're trained along a wall. Cultivars of climbing hydrangea are interesting looking plants. For example, white variegated, take a chance. Miranda of yellow variegation. Or green racer with petite leaves, a slow grower recommended for smaller gardens. Those of variegated foliage look particularly attractive when trained along tree trunks. The climbing hydrangea is especially well suited for this purpose. Aerial roots are a means of climbing, also in the case of the Japanese hydrangea vine Schizophragma handragodes and its cultivars such as Moonlight or Roseum. Another aerial root-producing plant is the Trumpet Creeper, Campsis. The most popular in Poland are cultivars of Campsis radicans, the American trumpet vine. The Winter Creeper, Aeonimus fortunae, and its cultivars are also aerial root-clinging plants. Most gardeners know the Winter Creeper as a trailing cover plant. It's not widely known that this is an excellent climber and will use all kinds of artificial supports, especially wooden ones or tree trunks, to reach the height of up to 2 to 4 meters or even more. Some vines haven't developed any organs enabling them to climb. They don't twine along supports either. However, they have long, supple shoots that interlace neighboring plants or lean on rocks or various constructions. This group includes, amongst others, climbing roses. If you'd like to train them upwards along arbors or supports, you should tie them in every now and again. Some clematis, uncharacteristically for the species, don't climb by means of leaf petioles, but lean on neighboring plants. All vines that climb this way are called non-clinging vines. Clematis that don't twine their leaf petioles around supports, but lean on them include, among others, Clematis manchurica, erect clematis, Clematis recta, or those from the inquinquefolia group such as HEATHER HERSCHELL, Alyanushka, and Arabella. Also some clematis from the Heracleofolia group, for example the popular, undemanding and commonly used PRAECOX. Let's go and see how it climbs. The Clematis PRAECOX is a great ground cover of modest requirements. It will grow nearly anywhere. Its annual growth rate is 2 to 3 meters. Should you provide it with a support, here it grows next to a yew, it will lean on it, intermingle with it and climb upwards. This is an example of a non-clinging vine. Leaf petioles are stiff, they won't twine around supports. The shoots just interlace. If we don't want that, the shoots are easily removed. Just cut them back, pull out, swipe aside like a flock of sparrows. It's done in no time at all, as they don't hold on to anything here. Just remember that such overgrowing climbers can stifle their life supports. Yew is a shade-loving plant, so it'll survive, just as this tsuga. However, shoots of juniper, or some species of tuya, will die if they're in a shade for too long. Bear that in mind if you use them as supports. Climbers grow towards the light, either upwards or at 45 degrees. Obviously, you can train them in the other direction, but then the shoots require tying up, which is time-consuming. The only climber growing in any direction is the Virginia creeper, Parthenocissus, both quinquefolia and tricuspidata. It grows up and downwards, filling the whole space available. Another thing worth remembering when planting climbers along supporting walls is that they should be at least 10 to 15 centimeters apart. This will allow them to reach the support and start twining around them or clinging to them in any other way. Besides, it'll enable air circulation. Climbers' growth can be directed so the shoots cover the chosen parts of a fence or a wall. It's also a way of inducing their blooming. It applies to all climbers that produce ornamental flowers. Shoots trained horizontally will flower more abundantly. Fruit-yielding climbers will bring a larger crop from horizontal shoots. This is why the cultivars of Actinidia arguta, meant to yield fruit, should be trained upwards to some height and then spread horizontally. Wisteria is trained in the same way. We can see one growing here by the fence. It reaches the trellis and then the strongest shoots are tied to the support horizontally. The tops will be cut back and the shoots trained in the same way the following year. The side shoots will be pruned and the plant will produce a multitude of flowers. A plant can be trained similarly along a wall, upwards and then horizontally between the windows or under the roof to stimulate blooming. What can be used for tying up the shoots? Wires, strings, any stiff material isn't recommended as it'll cut into the shoots as they grow. It's best to use material specifically designed for this purpose. For example, this one, reminding a cord cover stabilized to avoid damage from UV sun rays. It can be cut into pieces, tied. It's elastic so it won't damage the shoots. Such material was used here. Some climbers can be lowered by means of horizontal training. That's what I've done here with this climbing rose. I've trained the shoot so that the support is evenly utilized. For such strong ties, these elastic bands are perfectly suited. Besides, they're UV resistant. Also, loose bent wires may be useful in this case. Rose shoots don't thicken up much, though there's no danger of damage here. I'll interlace it from one side and from the other. I'll catch it here so the shoot is in a loose loop. It won't rub then, and you can train it upwards in a spiral. Next year and the following ones it will be evenly covered in flowers. You can do the same with clematis. Those that grow up to 3 to 4 or even 6 meters can be lowered by appropriate training. Horizontal training will enhance flower buds setting and will result in a more abundant blooming. The flowers will cover the support evenly. Now we know different methods of climbing, we will also know what supports to choose. The supports should also match the garden style and its size as well as needs and expectations. Supports may be made of wood or metal, for example, wrought iron that last for a long time and look good even without plants. You can choose a rustic style, that is, supports made of wooden poles, wicker, old branches. They have the advantage of being easily removed in the event of rearranging the garden. A nice idea is to use a gate, or a group of gates opening the way to a garden or its parts or the house entrances. These are garden application ideas, but climbers are also an excellent feature in urban public areas. In parks, where the space is limited, they can create pocket-sized gardens, green oases where one can find peace and quiet and fresh air. Climbers can cover walls. They're suitable as a roof cover for houses or car park buildings. In newly developed housing estates, there's often no indigenous soil in which trees could be planted, but with as little as a 20 to 30 centimeter deep layer of soil, climbers can be introduced to create shaded arbors. They'll look very attractive. Climbers trained along ropes, along walls, may create open work constructions. Those climbing the ropes opposite the windows will act as natural air conditioning in the season. In summer, they'll cool down the interior. In autumn and winter, when the shoots are bare, they won't stop the light coming in. Special climber gardens are established. The garden of the Warsaw University Library is an example, a great part of which is formed by climbers. Even to a larger extent, the climbers are a feature in the MFO Park in Zurich, where a 1 hectare area is taken up by constructions covered with vines that create a green oasis. Climbers offer endless possibilities, from the smallest gardens to large urban agglomerations. We'll benefit from embracing them, from living in healthy and beautiful surroundings.